Welcome to another episode of Can You Reach That?
Can you reach that? So recently, I just watched The Martian again after, watching it for the first time when it first came out.
The potato poop farm?
The potato poop farm. Yeah.
Genius,
right? Of course, the guy to get left behind is a botanist, so would it have worked if anybody else was stuck behind? I don't think so. Because they wouldn't have thought to make their own food like that.
I think there definitely would have been some more panic. But yeah,
Yeah, it was.
You have to figure out how to
survive, for that long too. And initially, when he started, it wasn't even a plan to get rescued. It was just a plan to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty genius and insightful. But as I was watching it, I decided to partake in some botanical medication, and the shit sent me on a survivalist mind trip. So as I'm watching the movie, I'm thinking of concepts of okay, if I ever get stranded on a remote planet somewhere, I go on a trip with
feasible
Elon to Mars or something. I stow away in the back of the spaceship or something, and I end up being the only person there. These are some good survival tactics. I gotta save my poop so I can grow some potatoes, which means I gotta take some potatoes with me. So.
Is that your emergency plan? I gotta bring potatoes.
Potatoes and poop.
Some duty.
Potatoes and poop, man.
Can you reach that? You see that? Let's talk about it. That, believe that. Let the people know that we see that and what they want to know. Can you reach that? Can you reach that? And now your host, Tango and Coop. Can you reach that? Can you reach that? Can you reach?
I mean, you have to bring something that's gonna give you some sort of food, but the potatoes need time to grow, dude.
So what grows faster than potatoes? Well, I mean, that's in the emergency kit. I'm not just using that to survive. I'm saying I got to make sure there's at least one potato that I can grow something off.
You might want to start growing it right away too, because if anything happens between the time you land,
yeah.
But that's the thing about that movie. I found interesting. The psychology behind certain things like that is just a mind. I mean, it just messes with your head, right?
Right.
Because like you said, if you're stranded anywhere, there's always a certain level of panic.
Right, 100%.
Right. So like if you get stranded in the middle of the desert somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Your mind starts racing. Oh, how am I getting out of this?
Right.
How am I going to find water? How am I going to survive? Right? Like, you remember that movie, Open Water?
Yeah.
Where those divers, it was loosely based on a true story where the divers got left behind. And okay, so that right there just loses it for a lot of people. I'd say more than half the planet in that situation drowns.
Done. That's it.
Because treading water, not everybody can tread water. There's people who can swim who can't tread water correctly, let alone the endurance it takes to tread for that long or even to float. I mean, and then you're in the middle of the ocean. It gets dark. You're going to start feeling shit even when you're not feeling shit touch you. It could be just a brisk current that touches you. What was that?
Who was that?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's just a lot of psychology behind that when you're just, with your own thoughts.
Yeah, that's so true. And you see it all the time. It's like any type of scenario that you see where it's a guy in solitary or a guy who's isolated on a perfect example. Without somebody else to reference to or bounce your ideas off of, and all you have is your own thoughts.
Right.
I think it's inevitable that you're eventually going to start losing it.
And that's why, like I said, Castaway, like Wilson, right? He had to create something
to maintain his sanity.
And that was those movies. I like the psychology behind certain movies and stuff like that. And then even flipping that psychology of survival into something a little bit more traumatic. The very first Saw movie.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. That got into just a gore fest. I mean, the whole series has turned into a gore fest. It was like, how can we top the next level of torture, right?
Right.
But the very first one, the psychology within that, of the mind games that was being played with them versus even the simplicity of just saw off your leg, dude.
Right. Having to save yourself by basically abusing yourself.
Right.
Punishing yourself for, some other crime or heinous act that you committed.
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to hold you accountable for it, and the only way to save yourself is to punish yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like the psychology behind movies like that, I appreciate. I think more than I appreciate the movie themselves. Because the first Saw movie, I appreciated it for that. The rest of them were just whatever. Like for me, Martian, appreciated the psychology behind it. The movie was cool, but that psychology behind that Castaway was just a phenomenal movie, anyways.
Yeah.
But then even taking it a little bit more sci-fi, right? Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whole series aside, just talking about the first one. Just thinking about that. What if you found out that this
is all a simulation?
Is bullshit. Yeah. That we're. I mean, and there are those theories, right? There's a lot of people who theorize that we are some sort of simulation.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to see both sides, the real versus. I mean, that's the part that I like. We know this as real,
right?
Be it a simulation or not, right?
Right.
But knowing if you were able to see the other side and then come back free willy
between the two, yeah.
You know, jumping between the two, just knowing what the real is versus what this is.
Yeah.
That psychology alone is crazy. Because then now it's like using Matrix as the model. Would you want to live in that desolate place that
the
was
actual
the real
reality?
world?
Yeah.
I mean, they're constantly in hiding. They have to be secluded. They can't get exposed because the machines. That's their battery.
Yeah.
Humans are their battery.
Yeah.
So, or would you rather just be in that and just live like this
and just exist in the system?
You know,
but I mean, that's
in a perfect, you know, quote unquote world, or
I feel like that's the whole consensus behind the movie is like and not even to take it that literal, like, you know, this is all a simulation and outside of this we're living in some dystopian environment, but like just in a sense of realistically, like there is a system that we exist in, that you participate in, and to be aware of that system and to try to exist outside of it. Same concept, you know, like if you don't play a part of the game, if you don't play the system, it is kind of like you're living in a dystopian future because you're disconnected from everything.
Right.
You're not a participant. If you don't want to do, you know, be a participant in the government, you don't want to work. There's a lot of veterans who choose to be homeless because they don't want to participate in the system. Because they know it's corrupt, they know it's bullshit, and it's like, I would rather live on the street than have to deal with all of that type of madness. So, like, realistically, I think it is a possibility. And I'm weird in the sense that I feel like I consider myself a realist. So if there was a situation, whenever shit hits the fan, I don't feel like there's a lot of time for me where I sit there and I'm like, oh my God, this is it. What are we going to do? Like, I feel like I automatically go into, okay, problem. How do we fix it? What do I need to do from here? This is the situation that it is now. What's the next step that I need to do to get me from here into a better spot?
Well, you already said it. You have a potato to grow.
My potato and my poop.
You're good to go.
But like with that, you know, that has me thinking like a bug out kit that has seeds in it, different type of seeds, you know, fruits, vegetables,
right?
Something that'll, granted, they had I think the potatoes like freeze dried or something, or they're at least vacuum sealed.
Probably
he had them in that little pack or something like that. So, you know, shelf life on that, I imagine, isn't as long as a seed would be. Now, granted, with the seed, that would take time to grow. That, you know, like you said before, as soon as you get there, you have to start doing that stuff.
Right.
But like, I feel like it would be a good idea if you have a bug out bag. Worst case scenario, you know, there is some type of attack on the U.S. and, you know, communication goes down, the last of days kind of thing. You know, like maybe having some seeds on you isn't a bad idea in your bug out bag.
Some poly seeds?
Yeah. Gotta have a poly seeds.
So
I'm spitting poly seeds.
that's the thing, you know, it's like when you think about, you know, obviously he was a botanist, so he immediately went to like, I gotta grow something, realized he had potatoes.
Yeah.
Knew he had poop and there was dirt.
And he figured it out. Yep.
But
and he needed water, and he figured out a way to come up. And that's the part. It's weird watching that movie. I was like, oh yeah, I could totally do this. And then I'll start like, wait a minute, this man created.
Right.
He created a whole ecosystem to
just needed that moisture
to make the moisture. I was like, yeah, I don't think I could have done all
heat,
of that.
You know,
I would have died.
So, but with that said, and seeing that in advance, don't you think you'd be even more prepared? Because you'd be like, well, shit, he took potato. I definitely needed that, but let me see what else I can take with me. Like you said, bringing other seeds, but I mean, what else could you take with you that would that has like a long shelf life, if you will, like for lack of better terms, they would sustain you over a longer duration of time versus constantly waiting, because you're gonna have to wait for those to grow,
right?
And you have to set some aside like he did, right?
Yeah.
Some are regrow, some are food,
right?
And then you have to ration that, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you probably get your fastest, whatever the fastest growing thing was, you'd want to start doing that first. But I mean, there's also, that's the replenish plan. There should be enough to sustain you, because they had their rations to sustain them for the duration of the trip and everything like that.
Right.
Fortunately for him, they ended up bugging out early, so he had extra rations.
Right.
So it did give him the time to, develop that whole system to grow his own food and everything like
sure.
that. But at a minimum, you should have some sort of, I would imagine, some sort of days, at a minimum, a few days worth of food to tide you over. But easier said than done. Who knows what?
And what about oxygen?
Well, that's where the plants come in. The plants produce oxygen. But again, it takes time to grow
enough,
that.
And then what planet are you on, and how much gravitational pull are you 3 times heavier than you are on Earth? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's so many variables.
There's a whole lot
in any
of variables.
situation.
Yeah. If we did start colonizing other planets, would you go or would you stay?
Yeah, I don't like flying, bro.
It's like flying to Vegas, let alone to Mars.
I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like even in the early stages of that, right? Let's say we were able to, let's say we had an established small colony on Mars that you were able to, hey, you could buy real estate or you could buy a trip, whatever to do. I feel like it's a one-way trip. So if you do go, you're not coming back because of the duration it takes to get there and all that. So, I mean, I feel like if you're going to do it, understand that you probably won't see whoever you're leaving here on Earth. You're not going to see them again in your life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, going back to the psychology behind that, it's a big hit. That's a big emotional tie. So for me, knowing that, no.
Yeah, I'm staying.
Because, if I had no family, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe whatever, God forbid, everybody's passed or...
Yeah, and it's just you.
It's just me. I'm not even, let's say I'm not married. I'm not kids. I don't have nothing, right?
Right.
Adventurous, I guess, maybe. But being that I don't have that scenario, that I do have family, and I guess the question would be, all right, well, what if you take them all with you?
Yeah.
But it's like, even that, it's like, do I want to risk... Because it's not
putting everybody through that.
Because you're putting a risk on their lives just to get there, right? Because you gotta say that's a risky flight.
Yeah.
Lots of things can go wrong because it's years.
Right.
So do I want to put all of them through that and then potentially lose, or? So no, I don't think I'd risk it.
Or just end up on some Wall-E shit where you're just in a ship circulating through space.
Wall-E.
That was a great movie.
Yeah.
Eve.
EV. I don't think I'd do it. Even single and with nothing here, I don't know if I think I'd have it would have more appeal to do.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm thinking about it right now. I don't know if I would, because even without that, I still have plenty of friends and stuff. You know what I mean? That I just feel like it'd be like, all right, y'all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I feel like I would stay. I would want to stay. I imagine that the first people to go, or at least the people that would desire to go, would typically be the elite anyway. So in my mind, it's like, well, if all of them leave, then maybe we can fix this shit around here.
The elite of the elite would pay for somebody else to go first because they had those means. You're the guinea pigs. You go check it out, and then I'll go next. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like it's
funny. No, you're right.
It sounds selfish, but I think that's what it is. They're not gonna risk their wealth and their being for that. They're gonna be like, all right, hey, do you want? Oh, word. Send my assistant.
They're gonna send the essential personnel first.
Right.
Yeah. So they can build the infrastructure and do everything.
Now here's a flip to that story. Let's say we were advanced enough that you could get there in a day.
Ooh, like on some teleport shit, or just on some flight shit, like some cryogenically frozen.
I'm gonna
and we're flying at the speed of light.
I'm not gonna go as far
shit.
as like teleporting. I feel like that's a little sci-fi.
Beat me up, Scotty.
Not to say it's not possible, but it's not possible.
Not yet.
But just on some flight level stuff. Let's say they could get you from here to Mars. Let's be reasonable. Let's say like 3 days.
Okay.
Let's say 3-4 days, you're there. So that means that if you change your mind, 3-4 days, you can come back.
Right.
Does that change your position?
No. I don't. Because to me, it's not about the. I guess the way I look at it is the whole reason they're leaving this planet and going to another planet is to try to create a new life, a new ecosystem, a new way of sustaining whatever we can't do here. We've depleted all the resources here, or the majority of the resources here, and it's not as cohabitable as it was before. So, okay, well, let's go somewhere else and try to create a new colony,
right,
where we can continue to thrive or whatever. I don't want to be with those people. Because in my mind, you're just going to fuck up that planet the way you fucked up this planet. That's how I see it.
But you could be part of that change that learns from the mistakes of the first.
Well, that's why I would stay. I would stay to undo all the damage, in theory.
But what if it was undoable? What if it was known that it was undoable? Not that you were going to die here, because of whatever destruction, whatever, right? Let's say that this planet's still fine for another, 500,000 years. You're good, but they need to start anew because there's no turning back whatever damage was done.
Right.
Like, they've said that in the past too. They were teetering on that line of no return.
Yeah.
Let's say we're beyond the line of no return. There is no return. This planet is depleting. This planet is, there's no longer going to be ice caps. We're going to go through a whole phase. There's going to be death and destruction, right? It's coming.
Yeah.
But there's a new planet that potentially you can learn from those mistakes. Are you one that would want to be part of that change? Or,
yes.
Or would you just say that's on them? I mean,
okay, from that aspect, I would want to be a part of the change. But if that change isn't allowed,
right,
if they're just going to go up there and do the same, then I would opt out. But if they're like, hey, we don't want to make the same mistakes. Now, if you look at the pattern of our history, we like to make the same mistakes. Every few generations or so, we fall into the same patterns that we've already fallen into, which means we haven't learned our lesson yet. So if we're going to end up on a new planet and continue to make the same mistakes, which I feel like corporate greed would at least lend a hand to some of it, because there's definitely going to be people up there that want to drill.
There's going to be commercialism, period.
Right. So there's going to be people that want to over abuse resources. There's always going to be those people there. And until we create some type of establishment that checks those people, which is what we don't have here. Right. We have a makeshift system that is supposed to be checking these people, but obviously it's not working, because if it was, we wouldn't be having the problems that we're having now.
There's too many behind closed door handshakes.
Right. So if that's still going to continue on the next planet, I don't see the point. Now, if there is a shift in the regime where people who actually want to make progress and do things a different way are in charge and calling the shots, that's a different story for me.
So what if it turned into sort of and just to full on take your view to an extreme, right? Let's politicize it. What if it was like all the liberal people were like, this is trash, you guys don't understand, we're just going to bounce. And most liberal people now are venturing off and they're building on one planet. You got conservatives, they're like, see ya. Now that's fine with us. We'll stay here on Earth and we'll do what we've been doing and you'll see. Right?
Yeah.
So now you've got you've got a conservative planet and you've got a liberal planet.
Damn. Which one do I want to be on?
Right. Like you literally have two planets now with two ideologies. And obviously when something like that happens, what you're going to see is you're still going to see a split, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to have conservatives here. They're going to split into two versions of conservatism. And same thing for the liberals. There's still going to be multiple versions of that, right? But at that point now, like, does it evolve into a point where now you have two planets at war?
I mean, potentially.
Planetary war?
There's gonna have to be some type of alliance between the two planets. Because with that scenario,
so if one planet's attacked, the other, that's like it's a interplanetary NATO
kind of thing. Yeah, because I mean, I feel like there is no survival with just one side of the aisle.
For sure.
I feel like there has to be both sides. Like we need
compromise is one of the things that unfortunately I feel like our political system is lacking nowadays.
Big time. It's a lot of concession and not a lot of compromise.
So,
and I feel like as far as the conservatives, I'll call them the capitalists because that's really what the Republican Party is primarily built on, is capitalism. Capitalism is necessary for financial growth and everything like that, but they don't want to do a lot of the labor. And I feel like a lot of the labor force is liberal. So we need the liberals to do the work that the capitalism sets up. But there should also be checks and balances to where capitalism
there's got to be regulations. There's
allowed to take advantage of the people that are working for them.
Indeed,
it has to be a fair shake, and that's really what I don't see now.
No,
there's the liberal side who's like, hey, we want money for all of this stuff, but I don't really see a lot of effort on the liberal side to generate that money other than through fundraising or asking for somebody else. And who are they asking? They're asking the capitalists.
Right.
And the capitalists are like, look, I worked hard for my shit. I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. My family built this company. We've created our generational wealth. You can do the same.
Yeah.
So they don't want to share their money, and they're going to do everything they can to keep their money and make more money. Indeed. So a cap on that, but have it has to be a coalition. There has to be some money that gets funneled back in to take care of the poor and the needy, period. And there's enough money on the Republican side that we could easily siphon off some of that to help out the less fortunate. But they don't want to, which I get it. Who likes giving their money to people that they think are going to abuse it?
So in jumping back now, taking it on a whole lighter note, keeping the mind state of traveling to a Mars or another planet, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Travel time being 3 to 4 days, whatever, right? Vacation, just on some leisure. Like,
oh, that'll be dope.
Like I take the fam. I'm just, hey, let's go to Mars. We go to Six Flags Mars.
Yeah.
You're down for the 3 to 4 day flight? That risk?
Yeah, for a trip like that. I mean, but at that point, I imagine if they're doing round trips, that technology has advanced far enough to where the air travel would be similar, not exactly the same, but similar to air travel on the planet.
You got asteroids and.
I get that, but we have storms, we have hurricanes, we have tornadoes.
So flying right now, they always say it's safer than driving, right? But there still are plane crashes that occur from time to time.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that it would be the same thing. But the obvious difference being that, like a flight from here to Australia or things like that, where they're like 18-hour flights.
Yeah.
Versus 4 days. So you have 4 days worth of explosive fuel on this ship.
True. You
have any number of catastrophes that could happen between.
Very true.
3 and 4 days of travel.
I agree.
I feel like it's.
You got to worry about the space pirates.
It's a lot. You're right. It's a lot higher of risk.
Alien comes in and tries to take over your ship. I am the captain now. But like
aliens have. Wait.
I don't know. I don't know what they got.
They got crazy accents.
Hey, Simpsons come up. Simpsons been projecting the future a lot. So
they maybe they're seeing those movies from the transmissions that are going out into space.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, this is what they want us to say.
Hey, it's like when you go to a foreign country who's behind on our culture, so they're still referencing Charles in Charge or something like that. So it's like when you run into the space aliens.
What was that? What was the Adam Sandler movie where everything was disco and all that stuff?
Dude, I can't remember.
Zohan.
Oh, don't mess with the Zohan. Yeah. Same type of the fizzy bubby, the bubbly fizzy
bubble.
Fizzy bubble.
Yeah, like when he came over and he was doing like the feathered haircut from like the 80s, and he thought it was like fire, and everyone's like, "What are you doing?" Like,
bro, that's so 80s.
Disco.
Hey, but like it's like with so even you mentioned the flight going to Australia, 18 hours type of thing.
Right.
At one point in time, that was ridiculous.
For sure.
When the planes first came out, you were lucky to get a 5-minute flight. So,
I was gonna say there was at one point that people would have said that's not happening. You're not fly. You can fly from here to here to here to here to here, and then you take a boat.
Right. So to go from that to be like we're gonna figure out how to make a plane fly in the air for 18 hours, they're like, oh, you're crazy to think that. Well, eventually we got to that point. So I
Right.
feel like it would be the same thing with space travel. In the beginning, it'd definitely be a lot more dangerous. And as time progresses on, technology advances, better equipment, better ships, better.
But if you could teleport, you'd be like, let's go.
Oh yeah, with the teleport, easy.
Just walk through a little
Just
thing.
walk through,
Doop, doop.
just walk through a Stargate.
You're just there.
Yeah, Stargates would be dope. Could you imagine customs at Stargate? They had a Stargate. Yo, it'd be on some tattooy, like some Star Wars type shit.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know?
What was it?
Would people still be jumping turnstiles?
So the other question would be, I guess, since we're on this crazy
Bruh.
sci-fi what if tip,
Right?
is what government is controlling this?
The first one to get there, obviously. I mean,
So-
that's how everything else runs.
So
in this country.
let's say Americans get there, they establish a base, they've got like a colony going now, right? There's people now that are just permanently living there. Most of them probably being, like you said, botanists,
Yeah.
scientists, things like that are prepping for the more conservative and more
Yeah.
mainstream resident.
Yeah.
So does that mean that that's now a U.S. territory, or is it a new state that's just happened to not be on Earth?
I feel like it's a new territory. Like you're claiming the first one to land on a planet. You're claiming the whole
So
planet.
is it like it's like Puerto Rico, Guam? It's just another U.S. territory.
Yeah.
So do the people there pay taxes? Do they, if they're establishing a colony, they're gonna have stores. They're gonna have, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
are they using U.S. currency?
They're gonna have a space tax.
You know what I'm saying? Like.
It'll
And then
probably be
as other people visit and other people get there and other people get their technologies up, do they start establishing their own colonies? And now you have here's the U.S. colony, here's the Russian colony, here's the Indian colony.
I could see that happening. It definitely wouldn't be. I don't imagine a cohesive. We are the world one colonization up there, and everybody coexists. Just because I feel like that's against human nature.
Or what if over time, as that's happening, what if over time those people go, wait, why are we paying Earth taxes? Why are we using Earth currency? Let's start making our own stuff. And then next thing you know, they create their own, with that mixture of people, create their own utopia, their own, they're now Martians.
I could see that.
On Mars, they're Martians, and they're now calling this something else, and now it's its own country on its own planet, its own everything.
They can implement the Usher bucks.
Do those people now become like? Are they traitors? Is it treasonous?
Well, I mean, then they go off on. I mean, if you want to go that route, then they can go off and try to.
They're seceding essentially.
Develop their own independence.
That's
I was
what I'm
going to say
saying.
like the South did. They tried to secede from the Union.
But how would that secession work, being that they're over there, and it's not like they could do it militarily because
let's go back even further since we're talking about secession. The British and the wow, why can't I'm drawing a blank right here. My history teacher would be very disappointed in me right now. Like the Europeans that came over to America first,
right?
With the whole, still living under the British rule. And then deciding, hey, we don't want to live under this rule anymore. The Boston Tea Party, fuck your tea tax. I feel like it would be the same type of scenario.
The difference is that there's no accessibility to even wage a war or do anything, right? You'd be so far away. Would people on Earth want to? All right, we got to send resources. So now we got to figure out how to fly military stuff out there. We have to figure out.
Of course, that's coming, and it's only a 3-day trip, right?
So
it's only a 3-day trip, right?
Right.
So it's not that hard. Like
well, commercially, right? So maybe militarily, it's less than that.
Possible. We've seen the military capabilities of what they can move and where they can move it to. We've left so much equipment overseas, so I imagine we would do the same.
It's a crazy thought.
Leave a bunch of equipment on Mars.
It's a hell of a rabbit hole.
It is, and we've been down this rabbit hole for a minute.
I mean, yeah.
Speaking of rabbit holes, no, I'm kidding.
I don't want to look at rabbit holes, dude. That's not even that's just a no.
No on the rabbit holes.
I feel like there's a no Diddy moment in there, but it's like
I was trying to avoid it.
I want to leave the Diddy's alone.
I was trying to avoid it.
So, but
since you brought up Diddy, I went to go see the Locks the other weekend.
That's a transition.
You like that? That was a good one, right? Yeah, they were playing down at the observatory.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. I wasn't able to go.
It was a great event. They were lit. They were live. Man, I can't state enough how much I
haven't seen
enjoyed.
the Locks.
That was my first time seeing them.
I don't believe I've seen them live. I've seen Jada live.
Yeah,
but not the Locks.
Yeah, no, it was dope. It was dope. They did all the classics. Had everybody in the place jumping. Whole place was lit. They were very appreciative of the crowd being there. Whole lot of crowd interaction. Yeah, it was dope. Opening acts were dope. There was a couple opening acts though. Something that you as an artist, as a performer, something that I think about when I go to see shows is when opening acts do songs that are kind of mellow.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it doesn't fit. I feel like an opening act should have some type, and not like a hype DMX party up kind of thing, but just something that you can kind of groove with, kind of rock with.
So here's my take on coming in with something that it might have a more mellow vibe, right?
Yeah.
There's two ways, I think, maybe if I think about it, maybe more, but two ways that it could work. One is if you're building something up, right? If you come in and you're like, okay, I'm gonna come in with this song. Now, mind you, if you're gonna come in and that's your first song, it's got to be kind of short. You don't want to have a 3-4 minute song with that vibe. You want it to be, and if it is that long of a song, you want to shorten it on purpose, right? To montage it up.
Right.
So you sit there and you do like a minute or so of it because you're making a build up to something that's gonna now get you jumping.
Right.
So in that instance, I'm okay with it. It can work. The only other scenario is if it's in the middle of your set, like you've done some energy stuff,
and you're trying
and you drop it down. But in those instances, that song has to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
It has to grab people. It has to touch you. It has to, whether it's on an emotional spectrum or something, it has to grab you.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, now you've just drugged the show down. And to get it back, people are pretty much going to they're going to grab their drinks and they're
That definitely happens to me. I noticed that, like, if I'm at a show, because I'm always interested in hearing the opening acts, because I know a lot of time, and I know every opening act doesn't make it big, but like a lot of times you hear these people and it's like, oh shit, like this dude's gonna go somewhere.
Right.
I can see it.
Oh, you
like,
hear some great talent. There's some great talent.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I like checking them out, but then it always trips me out when they come on and it's like it's just a slow vibe. And
see, my pet peeve. That's one. It can definitely wreck your set. But my other pet peeve is when they are either lip syncing over their track or they're just rapping or singing or whatever over their already pre-recorded track.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I've seen people where they have their pre-recorded vocals and they're at a very minimal level just for a backing, and I'm fine with that. I also see a lot of artists where they have the hook, because the hook is your playtime, right? That's where you get your breath back. You can interact with the audience. You can play it. They can learn the hook, the whole nine, right? But your verses, like if I want to hear the recording, man, I got services that play I can listen to your music. Like I'm here to see you live.
Yeah.
So I want to actually hear you perform the song.
I agree with that.
So with that said, when mainstream artists do that, it kind of bugs me, because it's like you're mainstream. Everybody can hear you recording all the time.
Yeah.
And you're not giving us what you should be. That I feel is lazy.
Yeah, I agree.
But then when you have an opener who's maybe way less known doing it, and then they're doing the whole where they drop their mic to, like, as if the audience is supposed to fill in the gap.
Right.
It's like, dog, like, they don't know you. You're not there yet. So don't just perform your song. So I do have a pet peeve with the lip syncers and the backing track. I feel like, especially on the come up, show your performance skills. I feel like if you're on a level where you're mainstream, you're a Dre, you're a Snoop, you're a whatever, like, I feel like you can get by with the backing, the normal tracking, because of who you are, and you've already established that you do this, right?
Right.
And you can drop that mic, and they will recite it back to you, and you have room to play. And I think you can, but even those artists, most of the time, they're not doing that anyways. They're performing their songs because they're professional.
Right.
So somebody who's less than that, I feel like you need to, like, you're earning your space. You got to earn you got to pay your dues, and I think part of that is performing your song and not relying on your vocals that are already recorded. I think that's a cop out.
That makes sense.
So I do have a pet peeve on that, but
I like that. But I mean, I feel like it's a different generation now. Cause I mean, even
Well, the problem is auto-tune, right? Because a lot of people don't have auto-tune when they're performing live, especially openers.
and they use a lot of that.
Since they're using a lot of it in their tracks, when they perform it, it don't sound even close to the same, and they know it. So they would rather just lip sync or let
play
the
the
track
track.
play. And again, that's cop out. It's like I get it. You're using auto-tune for a style, but you have to have a way to perform your song.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it makes sense though, because I mean, back in the day, especially with the major record labels being the gateway and controlling everything,
Mm-hmm.
in order to get on, you had to. It's one thing to be an artist, to be a rapper, a singer, but you had to also perform, and it wasn't just you coming up with something. There was a choreographer, there was
Right.
dance steps, there was dance routines,
Showmanship.
there was wardrobe. All of that stuff used to be a big part of the music industry. You weren't going to make it without it.
Right.
And now with the less barriers to entry,
Mm-hmm.
with pretty much anybody can drop a video on YouTube, on TikTok. You put a beat on TikTok, that thing goes viral. Now, from the comfort of your own home, you're a viral superstar.
Yep.
So the same processes and steps that an individual had to go through before, a lot of it just doesn't. You can bypass all of that. So there isn't the polishing and the refining of an artist that used to exist back in the day that exists now. Don't get me wrong. I know it still happens, and you can see it in the ones that are doing it.
Right.
But you can also see that there's a big demographic that doesn't.
For sure.
A whole lot of people that don't. It's like, nah, this is my 15 minutes of fame.
It's just showmanship as a whole. It's like
Yeah.
I feel like since people have that, like you said, that ability to just put it out, right?
Yeah.
You have the people who will put out a million, tracks just to see if one hits. And,
Yeah.
I get that you're throwing it out there, right?
See what sticks. Yeah.
And then you have the people who try to hone in on their craft, but it's like literally, like you said, like you can just get one hit off of TikTok and it catches and you're there. But at the same time, now, if you go viral off of a TikTok song, right? Now you're expected to do shows because you want to make money, right?
Right.
Yeah, you can make some money off the TikTok or the YouTube, but you got to go do shows and you got to make appearances and things like that. If your showmanship ain't there and you're performing, and there's no show, then what?
Yeah.
That's what creates TikTok hits.
Right.
It's literally like you got a TikTok hit. That's it. Like back in the day, they called them ringtone rappers. It was
Yeah.
like you'd rap to get a dope ringtone on your phone,
The,
or you'd sing to get a good hook for a ringtone on your phone.
the new version of the one hit wonder.
So now it's TikTok rappers. So,
Yeah.
and I get it. No hate on the hustle. You make your money.
Yeah, it's different. I mean,
the showmanship is
it's so
whole
different now. And
yeah.
again, with the easier levels of entry,
Mhm.
back in the day, like you had to have a whole album. You weren't just dropping one song.
Right.
There's a collection of songs that are coming out.
Mhm.
This is the one that's getting released.
Right.
Now I can make one song
And
and put it out.
And you remember you'd release a single.
Right.
And then maybe a month would go by, you drop the second single, and a month or two would go by, you drop the third single, and then
Right.
maybe that'd be it. Sometimes you had more, sometimes, but you do have 2 to 3 singles, right?
Yeah.
From your album.
Off of an album.
Now, since everything, and obviously it's instant. If somebody were to buy, like say you buy your CD or whatever, they'd have it, so they'd hear the whole thing anyways.
Yeah.
But now it's like since your album drops digitally, everybody's listening to all of them all
All at the same time.
at the same time. So
Yeah.
if you only got that one,
That's all you got.
that's all you got. So and that's just
Yeah. It's different times. Like I love it. I love that we're in a space that you can do that anybody, talented or not.
yeah. I mean the dope thing is I've come across many indie artists that like when I show people don't know who they are, like I know this because they're very independent.
Right.
But when it comes down to say I'm rolling in a car or something like that, I who's this? Oh, this is so and so. I never heard. I'm co-promoting some of their stuff just by me listening to it, right?
Right.
Which is what you want. But I've come across many artists just exploring through playlists, man, because you hear, like you said, some openings. You go to a show, you hear an opener, like, oh, I'm gonna check them out
Yeah.
because they might have some, like, they might perform 4 songs, but one of them really sticks. You're like, oh, this is kind of dope. I'm gonna
check them out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it was a couple. I got 2, because I mean, especially nowadays, I feel like a lot of openers, once they come in and they're done with their set, they're like, hey, follow me on all the socials and yada yada, look me up, yada yada yada. Here's my stuff. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. There were a couple from the Locks event where I was like,
and
I
that's
gotta
another
follow.
pet peeve is when like they have social media, they have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and all 4 of them are different handles.
Oh yeah.
Follow me at such and such on TikTok, but then follow me at such and such and such and such on. It's like, nah, dude, make them all the same.
Yeah.
Make them all the same.
They don't have that much insight.
So, because ain't nobody remembering the 19 different screen names you just threw out.
Hey, all I got to remember is one. Whatever my favorite platform is, I just got to remember you on that one.
Right.
If I happen to stumble onto the other platforms, maybe I'll look for you there. But
it was a trip. I remember back in the day, it was like, as an artist, you wanted a website. You wanted your own website. And now it's like, so what?
Yeah, nobody does websites.
Nobody cares about your website. They want your socials, and that's it, because they want to see content. And even if your website provided said content, it could have embedded links to YouTube, and all, people are like, I don't care about that. Just give me the YouTube.
Yeah.
They want to go right to the YouTube.
I want the content. I want the YouTube, or I want the social.
So
that's it. Speaking of websites, CanYouReachThat.com? Is that a thing?
CanYouReachThat.com?
If it's not, we about to make it.
Maybe have to.
Check our website out.
If it ain't there, check back later.
Check back later. It's coming soon.
Keep hitting refresh. F5.
Coming
F5.
soon. It's under construction. Any car guys knows what that means. It means it'll never get done, but
right. Under construction.
It's always under construction.
We're still working on that. Well, I mean, you look like you have constructed that shirt, so.
Oh, you noticed.
The unofficial official podcast shirt.
Right.
Only some people can wear those. Not everybody can pull that shirt off.
Yeah, this is a limited run of shirts. But, maybe I'll make it available to the public. If anybody wants one, let me know. I'm going to hook you up.
Hit the comments.
Yeah, let us know. I'm going to hook you up with one.
But you have to have a podcast.
Yeah, only for people with podcasts. If you got a podcast, hit me up. I can make your exclusive podcast shirts.
a podcast shirt. This is my podcast shirt.
This is my podcast shirt. Oh. I like yours though.
I'm political with it.
Yeah, Dwayne Elizondo, Mountain Dew, Herbert Camacho for president.
I mean, I gotta show my support, man. I mean, I think as long as he's got not sure by his side, he'll
be good to go.
The sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. If he doesn't have not sure, I think I would have a tough time in the election.
I wouldn't be sure about voting for him.
Right, I wouldn't be sure either.
Yeah.
But with not sure and I guess he's the incumbent president. So with President Camacho, I think he'll take America to where it needs to be, man. I mean,
yeah, his collaboration with Brando.
I mean, once he got not sure on board and they realized that they needed water, I figured that was a turning point, and I feel like now he's got his administration set.
Yeah.
And,
things change after that. Everybody needs a not sure in their camp.
He's on the right path. Hopefully, maybe after the election, we can all go get some lattes.
Yep. I like that.
Hey, maybe hit up Fuddruckers or Carl's Jr. Or...
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, man. I like that shirt, though. That's a nice shirt.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of the...
We got to bring the T-shirt gang
pop
back.
Pop culture T-shirts. I know we used to have the T-shirt gang.
T-shirt gang. T-shirt harder than me.
We might have to
bring it back.
Might have to run it back.
I mean, I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but every now and then we have a shirt or two that we've made that we've been putting on.
Yeah.
So we might start.
we got the podcast merch.
Yeah.
So it's on the way. So we've got some stuff. So
we're gonna start publicizing all of this if anybody wants to support.
We might have to do a giveaway. Do a little package giveaway.
Giveaway would be dope. Anybody want a free shirt? Let us know.
Shirt, maybe a beanie or something.
Some hats, some swag. We'll put together a CYRT swag package.
Got the sweet water bottles on deck. So
tastes better coming from a. Can you reach that?
Tastes better is coming from our heads.
That's funny.
Reach for our head. And with that,
that was a good one.
Can you reach that?
Can you reach that?
Can you reach that?
Can You Reach That? Brought to you by Double One Entertainment in Coopersville. Hosted by Tango and Coop. And created and edited by Tim Greenlee and Brandon Adolphus. Music, sound design, and editing by Michael B. That's me. Visual art and graphic design by Jonathan Greenlee. Additional visual design by Timothy Greenlee.